Okay, hi guys, welcome back. So today we are going to start making beef bone broth. So I am going to start by roasting all of my beef bones, and I have carrots, onions, 3 different types of onions. I have a yellow onion, a sweet onion, and a red onion. I did throw some mushrooms, and there's also garlic in there. My beef that I have, the soup bones, comes from a steer that we raised and had butchered. And then I put salt and pepper over it, and I'm going to put it in the oven and roast it at 400 degrees until I am happy with the way it looks. And then we'll bring it back when we're done. Alright, so we have all of our soup bones out of the oven with the vegetables. They're all nice and roasted. And now we are going to be putting it in this big pot with some water to boil. Okay, so this is everything that was in that roasting pan. The bones, vegetables, all of the juices, that all went into this pan, and I'm going to fill it up with water. Okay, so we have the pot filled all the way up with water, and this is going to sit here until it comes up to a boil, and I will bring it back when it starts boiling. Alright, so it is starting to get that nice rich color that you want, and just giving it a good stir. And it is just going to sit here again and simmer all day. We'll bring you back a little bit later. Okay, so my beef bone broth is done boiling and simmering. It has been simmering all a day today. And as if you notice, I did not let it simmer down at all. It still as full as it was. So what I'm going to do now is it's going to completely cool down, and then all of this oil that you see will kind of harden at the top so I can take it off. I do not can my broth with oil in it. It can ruin your canning if it siphons out. It's just better if you don't can it with oil in it. I know a lot of people will can it with the oil and the grease in it, but I do not. So it's going to completely cool off, and then tomorrow I will remove all the fat and grease, and then I will pressure can it and bring you along with me when I do that. Okay guys, so it is the next day, and my beef bone broth has been sitting on the oven all night long cooling, and it is still not completely cold. I can touch it, but it's still warm. So as you can see, all of this right here that's the grease that has settled to the top. So we're going to take that off here in just a second. And then we're going to use my spider to put everything back in the pan. And no, I didn't wash it because this pan's just going to go in the garbage. So all of the scraps are going in here. And then over here I have all of my quart jars. They were outside, so they are upside down on a towel coming up to room temperature, and I tipped them upside down just to make sure any moisture comes out of them and on to the towel. And then we also have my pressure canner, because beef broth, any kind of broth, has to be pressure canned. Now my pressure canner was outside, so it again is coming up to room temperature. So while I deal with the broth and the grease and warm the broth back up, because I want the broth to be hot when I put it into the canner, because the canner and the jars are going to be hot as well. We're going to let all of that stuff come up to room temperature. So let's get back to the broth here. So to get the grease out, we're just going to use this spoon. It would be better if I had a slotted spoon, but I do not. And we are just going to ever so lightly skim the top. And if we lose a little bit of broth, that's okay. Like I said, that pan that I showed you is what I'm going to put it in. This is just going to, yeah. I don't know if we're going to get a lot of grease out of here. I need to get a fat separator is what I need to do, which would make this a whole lot easier. But you gotta work with what you got until you're able to get everything you need. After I get all the grease off the top of what I can, Then I'll go through with my spider and get all the big chunks out. And then after I do all that, I'll get this turned back on to where it can heat back up. Usually when I make my broth, I do not put anything in it besides the meat and a little bit of onions. I don't normally salt it or put any of that in. I like to have it very plain. That way when I use it, it's more versatile in recipes. So I don't think I'm going to get any more of the grease out. I did get quite a bit out, but I think what's left in there is just going to have to stay. So the dogs are barking. I got the dogs to be quiet. I don't know what they were barking at, but this is what's called a spider. So we're just going to go in here all the way to the bottom, and because it's cooled off enough, I don't have to worry about burning myself. So we're not going to pick the meat off of this bone. It's okay to throw it away. I am going to throw it out to the cats and the chickens. And no, not my chickens that I have locked up in cages. We do have neighborhood chickens that just kind of run wild. And so they're going to enjoy that, which is perfectly fine. It'll give them a little bit more calories for this disgusting weather that we're having here and keep them a little bit warmer. And there is a lot of stuff in here. I gotta say though, it has made everything smell really, really good by having this broth boiling all day yesterday. And I do still have, I think, three more packs, possibly 4 more packs of beef bones, if I need to make more beef broth. So I did not use all of the ingredients to make this one. Let's see here. Still coming out with a bunch of stuff. You see all the mushrooms in there. I'm hoping that added some unique flavors. I was going to read the back of a box at the store to find out exactly what it's Swanson's beef broth. Some of the ingredients in there because I really like the flavor of the Swanson's beef broth. But I did not do that. Alright, so I think that's probably all that's coming out. A couple more skin peels here. And whatever is still left in there, I do have a piece of cheesecloth that I'm going to put over my funnel. And I'm going to dump the liquid through the cheesecloth to let it strain some more before it goes into the jars. So here's all the stuff that was in it. Like I said, this is all going to the cats and the outside chickens. I'm not going to pick the bones off or do anything else with this stuff. And it's okay that it goes in to the trash or that you compost it or feed it to your animals. It's fine. You don't have to save it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my broth back on. now that there's nothing in it, and I'm just going to let it come right back up to a boil so it's scalding hot. And that's probably going to take in, my jars will be room temperature by the time that this is almost hot, and then I can put my jars in my pressure canner to sterilize and bring those up to temperature. Excuse me. So as you can see, here's the top of my pan, and right here is where the beef broth was, and when I took all the stuff out, it dropped. So it will drop just because sheer volume, that's what it does. So we're going to put the lid back on this and bring it back up to heat, and when we're ready to can it, I'll bring it back. Okay, so we have our pressure canner going. Our broth is almost up to a boil, so we are going to put our pressure canner on to bring that water up to a boil. Our jars are already ready to go. Again, everything needs to be the same temperature. Jars, broth, water. So after this water gets to boiling, actually we need to put the jars in the water. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of my jars, they're just going to go face up. This is to heat them up. So I guess the jars aren't ready to go because I forgot they got to be the same temperature as all the other liquid. Ooh, and they're going to take over. Alright, give me a minute here. Alright, so I got them all in there. It holds 7 jars. They don't need to be straight at this point because they're just going to be heating up. So we're going to go ahead and turn that burner on, and the water and the jars and the pot right now are all the same temperature. So it's all going to be bringing up together. And these are brand new jars, so I did not have to check and make sure they weren't chipped. I just opened them and they are perfectly good to go. So I use the Presto pressure canner and cooker. Every canner is different, so if you are going to pressure can, make sure you read your instruction booklet. It has everything in it that you need to know. You can look up specifics by the table of contents. It has recipes in here you can cook, and it tells you how to do soup and broths and vegetables and tomatoes and all kinds of stuff. It also has a boiling water bath section in here. There are some recipes for like beef broth and braised beef, Italian beef. Just read your book inside and out before you can. Like I said, every pressure canner is different, and you want to make sure you read the manual that comes with your pressure canner. Mine is used a weighted. I do not have the gauge. I don't like the gauge pressure canners because they make me nervous. So I use the one that just has the weight on. Now, all of these weights are different, which I got to figure out how to get them off of there, which I will here in a minute. So if you can see, there are 3. The bottom one right here, just that, I do believe is 5 pounds. When you add the second ring, that's 10, and when you add this ring, that is 15. I could be wrong. I will go back and read my manual here in just a minute to make sure I'm right, but this is the easiest way for me to pressure can. It is less I don't know how to say that. It doesn't drive my anxiety up the wall. Stressful. It's less stressful. So they have ones with just the weights, and then they have ones that have a gauge and a weight that you can buy. Just do your research on whichever one you want, but this is the one that I use, and I got it at Walmart. So right now our jars again are heating. They're coming up to a boil. I'm not going to put the lid on it to do the boiling. I want my jars to, I don't want to take any chances of this going under pressure before I'm ready. So just bringing the jars up to the temperature that my broth is going to be, and as you can see, it steamed up the camera. So it is simmering away, and then will be coming to boil soon. So we will be back when we're ready to put this in jars. Okay guys, so my water is boiling, and I've already taken my hot jars out. The camera is steaming up, so I've got my first jar ready. I've got cheesecloth over the funnel, which is sitting on top of the jar, and again, these are quart jars, and I have my ladle. So we're just going to give this a good stir because it is ready. And like I said, I'm straining it over the lid or over the cheesecloth to catch any bits like that didn't come out with the spider. So we're gonna just keep doing that. And my water is going to stay boiling the whole time I'm doing this because I don't want my water in my pressure canner to come down in temperature because this broth is scalding hot, so my water needs to be scalding hot. My jars are also hot. They're not like scalding hot, but they're hot enough. So everything needs to be the same or as close to the same temperature as possible to prevent breakage and explosions in your pressure canner, which I know it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. Alright, I think that's good with the first jar. So, see all the little bits that it caught in there? So what we're going to do is let that drip just a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put that over on the next jar. I think I might have filled it up a little bit. So you want to leave an inch head space. This is too full. I'll dump that out here in a minute. So an inch is like this first ring right here at the bottom of the lip of the jar. So that's where you want to fill it up to. I'm just barely above that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set these, or this to the side. I'm going to fill the rest, and then I'll bring you back when I have them all filled. Okay, so we got all 7 of our jars filled. 6 of them there, and then 1 over here. Those jars are waiting to be sterilized and heated up for the next round. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a cloth, wash rag, whatever's not going to leave lint. You're going to dip it in white vinegar, which is what I have in this bowl. And then you're going to wipe the rims because there's a lot of grease on these rims from the broth. And you need to wipe it off really good and make sure they're very clean because it will ruin your seal. And then again, you will have a wasted product. And this is too much hard work to have wasted products. Now the vinegar cuts through that oil, that's why you use vinegar. It's just better to use that than anything else. All these wiped up. Make sure you have enough vinegar in, and I dip my rag in there. That's probably not what you're supposed to do. Alright, if you do dip your rag in the broth, don't worry about it. Just move to a different part and re-ripe the rim. I got 1 more to do over here. Alright, so all that's done. Now we put on our lids. So get them all on there. Okay, got that one there. And again, with the rings, these on there straight, maybe. And fingertip tight. So first 2 fingers and your thumb, grab a hold of it, turn till you feel resistance, and then stop. Fingertip tight. Don't get it too tight or this part is going to bulge and again ruin your product. There we are. Fingertip tight. Okay. After you get them tight, you want to use your tongs to put them in the pressure canner because these jars, again, are scalding hot with scalding hot liquid. Now, in the bottom of my pressure canner, there's the hot water. And then this thing right there that I'm poking is a rack that comes with your pressure canner. So you want to make sure you have that in, because you do not want your jars touching the bottom of the canner and rattling against the bottom of this metal pan, because it can cause breakage. There's a lot of things that can cause breakage when you're canning. Now, if pressure canning is something that you're not comfortable with doing, and you don't want to do it by yourself for the first time, find somebody who does can pressure cans and ask them if they would be willing to help you, walk you through it your first time, maybe first couple times, just so you're comfortable, because you want to make sure you're as comfortable as possible with this. So my pressure canner holds 7, and all I'm doing is just doing my best to make sure these jars do not touch, a little bit of space in between each one, and so they don't rattle against each other. Now for the lid, you can see there's an arrow here and an arrow there. You want to make sure those arrows line up when you get it closed. So turning it this way opens it, turning it this way closes it. So we're going to get that on there. Okay, we got the lid on. It took a minute. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to find the exact spot to get it to lock in. So as you can see, the arrows are not lined up anymore. You only line them up to close it. Once it's closed, these arrows don't line up no more. So it's good and locked. So now what we're going to do is, we have the burner on, and what we're going to do is wait until this starts venting. This is the vent hole. So we are going to wait until we can see a steady stream of steam coming out of that, and we are going to let that steam I'm going to have to read how long it has to steam, and then I'll let you know as soon as I find it. But we're going to let that steam before we do anything else. So I've got my burner on high. Everything's still the same temperature. Lid's on, waiting for it to steam. And we'll be back when it's starting to steam so I can show you what that looks like. Alright, so this is venting. I don't know if you can see that. So venting, the steady stream of steam is coming out. So what we're going to do now is let that do the steady stream for 10 minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, so the pressure canner has vented for 10 minutes. Now I am going to put the regulator over this. Whew, maybe. No, this is very hot. So, okay. So I'm doing this at 15 pounds of pressure for my altitude. Now 15 pounds of pressure is this regulator fully put together. Each ring is 5. So without the rings, it's 5 pounds. One ring is 10 pounds, and the full assembly with both rings, that's a total of 15 pounds. Now, I'm going to let that sit on there, and when that starts rocking back and forth gently, that's when I will start my time. Okay, so we are back, and that weight is rocking back and forth like it's supposed to be. And we are going to do quart jars, which is what I have, and I think it's for 25 minutes. Let's see here. We need to go to page 49. One more page. There we go. So canning, stocks, and soups. So pressure at 10 pounds of pressure. For pints for 20 minutes and quarts 25 minutes. For pressuring or for processing above 1,000 feet of altitude, which is us, we use 15 pounds of pressure. So quarts 25 minutes at 15 pounds of pressure, and then we'll be back when it's done. Okay, so our canner is done processing, so I have turned the heat off all the way, and what I'm going to do is let it sit here until this little valve goes all the way down, and then I'll bring it back when it's down. Okay, so I do believe our pressure canner is completely, this thing is all the way down, so I can now lift this up. So we're going to let it cool down some more. I want to make sure there's steam coming out of that, so we want to make sure no steam is coming out of here. So we'll be back when we're ready to open the lid. Alright, Alright, so this canner is ready to open. It is still very, very hot. So we're going to do this very carefully. Now, if you notice there's no steam coming out, this is down. The regulator has been off for 10 minutes. So now we can open it. So we're going to go ahead and move the canner. It is in the unlocked position, and when you open it, you want to open it away from you so you don't get a steam facial, because those are no fun. So, whew. And I just kind of got my hand burned. Let's see here. Alright, if you can hear those poppings. Sorry, this is really hard to do one-handed. Whew. If you can hear, oh my gosh. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and take these out so they can start cooling. I'm going to do this very, very carefully. We got one last jar. So all those poppings that you are hearing in the background are the lid sealing. Okay. So we have all of them out. And we've got 7 of them sitting here. Now we're going to let these sit still for 24 hours without moving them. And then when I have the other batch done, I'll bring it back to show you how many we get. Alright, so I got the second batch of bone broth in. I'm just waiting for the weight to start wiggling back and forth. And then I will start my time. Alright, so the weight is rocking back and forth, so we can now set the timer for 25 minutes for the second batch of bone broth. Okay guys, so I am on my third and final batch of jars. I think I have 4 or 5. I think I have 5 jars, 5 quart jars that are left in here. And it is like 8:45 at night. So far, I have got all of these jars. So they all have to cool until tomorrow, and then I can take the rings off and label them, get them put up. But this has to come up to a boil and start venting, and then I will bring you back tomorrow morning and show you what they all look like when I get ready to put them away. So it is the next morning, and all of my jars have cooled completely and sealed. I am going to wash off this. We're going to remove the rings and then get them put away, but I ended up with 19 jars of homemade beef bone broth. So, pretty good day yesterday. So that is it. If you guys like more videos like this, please like and subscribe so I know to keep posting. Until next time, bye-bye.